Hello and welcome to WP Roundtable Hangout number 15. Today we're going to be discussing automating tasks. I'm Jason Crawford, independent web designer out of Medellin, Colombia. And that's it for today. Kyle.
I'm Kyle Maurer. I am a lead developer for Real Big Marketing, Jackson, Michigan-based full-service marketing firm. I'm working with WordPress, making plugins, making websites, automated processes. So that's it.
All right, I'll go next. Kellen Mace, also independent freelance web dev from Rochester Hills area on the east side of Michigan. Happy to be on tonight talking about automating some tasks for web development. Brian.
Hey guys, I'm Brian, developer here in Dayton, Ohio. Automated tasks are a big part of my day-to-day process. I'm really excited to be talking about some of them. I have some nice tools that I use that I'm going to show you guys.
All right.
Awesome. I'll kick it off with one of the ones I wanted to cover, and then I'll pass it around and get back to some others. Let me go ahead and do a screen share here. And basically, one of the things I do is I use Maam and develop locally. But how I do that is I have one basic localhost admin, and I come in, I reset my theme, which is a simple two-click solution for me when I'm done with a project once I've uploaded it to a server. So what I do is I come in and do all of my basic settings. So your general, let's go to some basic ones here. Let's go to like reading. So I might have a static, your latest static page. Let's go to permalinks. So my permalinks are generally set up with month and name. If I have a website where that needs to be changed, then I'll go ahead and custom, change that for that specific website. But a lot of stuff in here, just having it generally done set, all my default discussion settings, writing settings, all these settings, and a lot of stuff within the users category, a lot of the same plugins that are used all the time, such as I use WordPress SEO from Yoast every time. I use Backup Buddy every time. I put Clef on every website. So some of the things that are just very generic, I go ahead and have them built into right here on my local host, and then I will come in and go into Headway, which is what I use as a theme for 99% of the sites I do, probably all of them now. I haven't used anything other than Headway in probably the last 10 projects. But I'll come in here to my visual editor and go through setting up my page. We'll do our wireframing right here. This is going to be our content block or whatever else, but I'll do all the wireframing right here with the client on a video chat, and then I'll stop there and export, go right back into the dashboard. Once we've checked it out, the site kind of looks fine. I'll go right back in the dashboard, go into Backup Buddy, do a migrate to their live server, and if they don't yet have a live server, then I'll migrate it out and put it up as a new file on my local drive. But if they've got the server, which most times they do, or I'll set it up on a subdomain that for one of my test or development sites that I have a live server for. But basically, this just saves me 2 or 3 hours of going through monotonous stuff like uploading certain plugins, adjusting our main settings, major settings, and then, like I said, I can do that wireframe right there in the initial conference. And as soon as we've figured out exactly how we want that wireframing done, I can send it to a server and move right on. So Backup Buddy, of course, I'll just come in here and do I'll download the import buddy.php, get myself a backup, and run it over put it on a live server, and from there I can always chat back and forth, and the client can see their sites. But again, it's a few hours saved, but a few hours, especially with that really, really boring stuff, and half the time it's because it's always the same stuff that we're looking at, and if you were to go into some of the stuff, it can get old and boring and easy to forget. Especially if we come down here to like our ping services, you know, I just don't have to go through and add all that stuff again. Thoughts?
That's awesome, Jason. It's really cool to be able to kind of like automate your repeated processes and make it simple for every new project. Because that's a big thing for people like us who are running a lot of projects. If your settings are the same each time, make it easy on yourself.
Are your settings normally the same?
A lot of settings I think would be very similar in most cases. For like our common plugins, will probably be, you know, configuring them the same way, like Yoast SEO and general settings for WordPress. It would be, you know, a lot of our clients are in the same geographical region, the same time zone, using the same language. Same permalink structure, a lot of stuff like that is going to be the same across the board. So that's a time saver.
Yeah, I think the only one I ever have to change on a regular basis is a permalink structure. I bounce back and forth between adding the date and not adding the date, depending on the type of content that they're going to be generating and whether or not they may be repeating that content and need the date. So that's I think that's really the only big one I have to go in and double check each time. But yeah, a lot of those monotonous tasks are just done, and I can have that website live within, you know, almost immediately after we've had our initial conference and gone through the wireframing, and from there, the client can look at it whenever they want. I don't have to keep it on my local server, but it's very simple for me to get that up and running and knocked out, and then we can just move on with really saves me probably five or 6 hours that I would be set preparing to have a conversation with a client. I can now just jump right into that conversation and save those 5 or 6 hours with each project. And it tends to stack up after a while.
That's great.
It is great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then it looks like Brian's ready to go then.
Yeah, so I've got a couple things to talk about. One, I want to know if you guys took a look at WP Tavern. I believe it was on the 15th of July. They were at a post about a WP Core, which I don't know. Have you guys heard of WP Core at all?
I have. Yeah.
Yes.
In passing,
So-
podcasts and stuff.
Yeah, so I just found out about this on the 15th when they published that article, and it is amazing what they're doing. Where basically, if you don't know what it is, WP Core, you build your own package, I guess, of plugins that you want to install on your WordPress site, and then you download their plugin. The package you built gives you an API key or a key for that specific package. Go into your WordPress plugin, put in that key, and then it installs all of the packages or plugins for you that are part of that package in one go. Really seems really nice. I've not had a chance to use it because I've not had any projects that I've started since I found out about it, but I'm really excited about using that. Really automated all of the initialized plugins that you do. Like for me, I do kind of like you, Jason, Backup Buddy for every plugin, Gravity Forms for every plugin, Advanced Custom Fields for every project, not plugin, sorry, as well as a few others. So really should take a look at it if you're always starting new projects, doing a lot of projects that start out the same for you. So that's the first one. That's kind of a quick automation suggestion for you. Then, like I said earlier, automation and tools that make my development a lot easier are a major part of my day-to-day process. And one of the things I've been doing a lot lately, I do a lot of development in WordPress, but I also do a lot of development in Laravel, which is a PHP framework. It's really, really a nice, great framework to use outside of WordPress if you ever need something. highly suggest taking a look at it. But Laravel gives you a bunch of tools, and because it uses a composer, you can bring individual tools from within the Laravel framework into your own project. So if I share my screen here, one of the tools that I've started using in my process is called Envoy Task Runner. So what Envoy is, it allows me to set up a file where via command line then it can read this file, it can run all these different tasks for me that I have set up where basically it logs in via SSH to your server, and then I have a deployment task where it runs a bunch of different commands for me automatically. So all I have to do is go to my terminal on my local machine. I don't even have to log in to my remote server to do these commands. I just, from my local machine, I run the command envoy run deploy. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. But basically that deploys my entire website for me to my staging environment and even my production environment if I have that task set up. So here you can kind of see quick ways of doing it. If you've never worked with Composer, it may seem daunting at first, but it's actually a really easy thing to get set up. So basically, let me open up my Composer file. You need to install Composer, and you can do that really simply at getcomposer.org, I believe it is. And then it allows you to have command line tools for Composer, one of which creates a JSON file for you, which gives you the the directions for what Composer needs to do. So my WordPress install, which is this set over here, it's a clean WordPress install. I've done nothing to it. But I have a composer.json file, which requires Laravel Envoy at any version. That's what that star is. And then I run composer install from command line on this project. And it brings in the packages that Envoy needs for functioning. And the main one is right here in Laravel Envoy in the vendor directory. The vendor directory you don't need to commit if you use any kind of Git or SVN. You don't need to keep that under version control. As long as the composer.json file is there, it rebuilds the vendor file for you. So with this, what I do then is create an envoy.blade.php. Blade is a templating engine Laravel uses. So it's you'll want to look into what that looks like. But essentially, I define my servers with an @server, and then my web server with how I would log in via SSH. So once I get that set up, right now I have to put my password in for all this. But if you set up your server so your known host's file is correct, you won't need your password even to do this. But once you get your server set up here, you define tasks. So I've got a sample one here where it's task deploy. A lot of times I'll do deploy stage, and then I can say only work on the stage. So I would set up another one here. IP whatever it is, and then this task would only be available to run on staging. And then if you want to do things where it deploys to both at the same time, you would just do stage and web, and now that will deploy to both. And there are ways to make it asynchronous or synchronous, things like that. But if I get rid of this, the default one, if I don't give anything, it's going to show or go to everything. So let me get rid of this one, or else it'll fail out. So my default task, my deploy task, I've got set up to just echo out showing the list of root, and then just an ls, and then I echo out CDing into web, and then I CD into web, and then echo out showing listing of web, and then echo all that out, which I'm already in CD, so I'm listing the files in there. So if I go into here, let me increase this size for you. Now I can just run vendor bin envoy run deploy. Let let this run for a second. It's going to ask me for my password. Put that in. And there you can see it ran all these commands. This is actually on my, my web server. So this is a really simple example of what it can do, but how I utilize it is when I do my run deploy, I do a basically cd into the directory. I do a git pull, either that or I do a kind of a FTP-esque type thing, an SFTP or SCP type listing where I pull in all my stuff from local and put it onto the server. A lot of the time, though, I just do a git pull where I pull from the repository because I do everything through Git. And then, you know, it updates my site for me. And all I have to do is type in that Envoy run deploy, and I'm done. So that's what I've got.
Very cool.
That's super cool, Brian. Man. Do you know anybody else who is using that?
Not that I know of for the WordPress community, but it is used heavily in the Laravel community, because that is where it was defined. I honestly don't know anyone that is using it in WordPress.
Really?
Yeah. But for a while, I didn't even know if it would be possible within WordPress to do, but it turns out it is.
One last time, what was the name of that tool?
Envoy, E-N-V-O-Y.
Very cool. All right, anything else, Brian?
That's what I've got.
Before we switch it up? Okay. Cool, I'll go next. I'll do a screen share and talk about a few things. Let's see here. All right. Am I on? Can you all see me? All right. Some of mine are some quick tips and tricks for saving time just on kind of menial, tedious everyday tasks that may only take a few seconds, but if you do them a few hundred times, then it adds up to a lot, right? First one, I wrote a blog post a few days ago, kind of somewhat in preparation for this Hangout on Air. And that is just a fix I came up with to this simple problem. It's on how to automate the trackpad and mouse natural scrolling in Mac OS X. So what this is if you go to System Preferences on any Mac and then either mouse or trackpad, here they'll have an option for natural scrolling. Here it is, scroll direction natural, and you see the little video on the side illustrates the direction of the content when you move it, when you have it on versus when you have it off, right? To me, and I know a lot of people share this sentiment, share this line of thinking, but it makes a lot of sense to have that on, to have natural scrolling on, especially in this day and age with smartphones and tablets, right? We're kind of used to the content moving in the direction that we scroll it, but sometimes I like to use a mouse. If I'm going to be working for long periods, it's a little quicker, and I even have a specialized kind of ergonomic mouse, so my wrist doesn't hurt after using the mouse for long periods. And to me, it makes no sense to use natural scrolling with a mouse. It's very counterintuitive to scroll down on the mouse, scroll wheel, and have your whole page go up, or vice versa. To me, that's a little backwards. So at first, I was coming into System Preferences and manually checking this on or off every single time I switched devices, and it got a little cumbersome. So just a quick, trick I came up with. I found this free Mac utility called Control Plane. So in this blog post, I have a link to that. It basically monitors your system for changes. So you can set it up so that to monitor for any USB devices that are plugged in, or if it's a Bluetooth, mouse that you might have for any Bluetooth device that's connected. And the moment that happens, you can tell it to either toggle natural scrolling on or off. All right. So I go through, you can see all the screenshots here. I go through exactly how to configure those settings so that if you run a Mac, that is, so that your settings always do the right thing. Whether you have the moment you plug that mouse in, it's the way you prefer, and then the moment you unplug it, it goes back to the the way you prefer with the trackpad. So something quick and easy, but it was just a kind of a minor frustration I dealt with all the time when switching between devices. So check out that blog post if that would be of interest to you if you run a Mac and switch devices like that. Next one, really quick, is just I find myself needing to batch resize images. If I have a bunch of images in one directory or one folder on my computer and want to resize those, instead of doing them one by one, to batch resize those is quite handy. So something as simple as this. There's this little Lifehacker article about how to quickly resize images. What I like about this, it resizes it to whatever number you stick here. I'll zoom in a little bit. Whatever number you stick here in the code before you run it in the Mac terminal, it makes the image this big on its longest size. So if you run this command and it's portrait or it's landscape orientation, it doesn't matter. It'll just, whichever is the longest size, it'll shrink that down to 640, and the aspect ratio will be maintained with that. You can stick in two numbers here if you want to, change the aspect ratio, or like the Z might have something to do with that. If you want to maintain it, which is almost always the case for me, you just change this to whatever pixel amount you want. So 640 would be that pixel amount, and then append any ending. So you can append, ping or JPEG or whatever that may be. So I run this, all the time just to batch resize images. One of the tools we talked about on the last Hangout on air, I'll mention here as well. It's one that Jason turned me on to. It's Image Optim. All right, and there's a Windows counterpart as well, File Optimizer, that we talked about last week. That would be a great one for reducing the file size. But for the image, size itself in terms of length and width, there's a short little command you can run in terminal to do that, to batch resize any images. So I use that quite a bit. Another little utility is JumpCut. This is a clipboard management tool for Mac OS X. I was going to demo that really quickly. So you see in my menu bar up here, I just have the scissor icon, and you can see just things I've copied recently right here. So basically, let's say I had these lines of text right here. I wanted to copy and paste between two web pages or between two form fields or something like that. Instead of copying one, going to the other page, pasting, and then coming back for the next, etc., what I would do is copy the first, copy the second, copy the third, how about, and then come to wherever I need to paste those things. And on the Mac, you can set whatever keyboard shortcut you want. So when I go to paste it, I get this little modal window pop up here, and I can scroll through anything I've copied last and whichever one I end on. Let's say this one. I end on that, and then release my key. That gets plugged in. On the next line, I want this one. The next line, I want. Now I'll go for number 1. Right? So you can really quickly copy and paste things. There are more robust clipboard management tools out there that allow you to copy all kinds of images and keep it a whole library or inventory of everything you've ever clipped, that kind of thing. But I found those to be kind of overkill for my purposes. This one is a really lightweight utility that does what it does really well, just and pasting text back and forth. So JumpCut, I tried out a few others, but this one is again lightweight and does the trick. You can either use a keyboard shortcut like this to do the modal window and paste it in, or like I showed, if you just click the little menu bar icon here and you can just click on any of these and it would do just the same thing. All right. Another quick tool, it shaves off lots of time. Let's see, next one I have is Mailbox. This is an iOS and Android mobile app, but it's coming to Mac OS X. They're going to make a desktop version of this as well. But I would consider this automation, just some of the features it has, because of what it allows you to do, and that is snoozing your emails is its biggest feature. So basically, you can kind of like the image shows here. You can swipe things to, you can archive them and delete them, and things that you usually could using Gmail, which is the service you have to run Mailbox in the background. But you can also snooze emails. At first, I didn't think that was a big deal. I first read about it and thought, well, if I snooze the email right now, then when it comes back, I'm gonna have to deal with it anyways. Why not deal with it right now? Isn't it kind of encouraging you to, push things off kind of thing. But I found that to be the opposite. After giving it a chance, it helps out quite a bit because oftentimes I'll have emails in my inbox that I know I'm not going to have to deal with for another week or two. Like I'm waiting to hear back from a client or from, some other company, whatever the case may be. So what I'll do is snooze that until whatever date I know I'm going to need that email again, and then magically it'll just show up again in my inbox on that date. Right? So what it does is just allows you to keep your inbox really clean and really pared down to just the things you need to deal with like then and there, and everything else isn't cluttering up your inbox. You're not seeing it every single day for the next week or week and a half. Waiting until you have whatever answer you're waiting for, whatever client is going to message you back, that kind of thing. So I'd highly recommend this app. I use it quite a bit to snooze emails and then revisit them later. Another cool feature they've added recently is you can have it automatically either archive or snooze or delete emails. It'll recognize patterns, so you can say, from this person or from this, company or whatever else, put every email in this folder or snooze every one of their emails for a week before you show it to me, or automatically archive it. All right, so things like that. You can do some of those similar things just within Gmail if you use that for your email service, as many of us do. You can set up filters, of course, where your emails get sent to certain folders within, or get certain labels tagged to them in Gmail. But this is an even quicker way to do that, kind of on the fly, I've found. So highly recommended Mailbox. They were acquired by Dropbox as well about a year or two ago. So if you use Dropbox as a service and you find yourself sending people links to files in your Dropbox, Mailbox makes that even easier on your mobile device. You can just attach things from Dropbox directly as though they were attachments to an email that are already on your device, kind of thing. So it integrates really well with Dropbox. So recommend that. All right, keep on rolling. The next one I have is Atext. This is a text expansion app that helps me automate quite a large number of tasks. This is a $5 Mac OS X app. There are others out there, like Text Expander is another popular one, but I would recommend just any text expansion app like this for just for any text you find yourself reusing over and over, rather than typing it out every time. Using some app like this to quickly insert it is a plus, and I'll demo that one as well. So my little test screen here. Let's see, I'll delete this stuff and I'll open Atext, this app that I use, and I'll show you a few. So I just put together these quick little snippets under the coding section here. So let's say I have this function I use sometimes, right, called kill me. It's kind of morbid, but it basically runs the WP die function and plugs in a couple of parameters. Takes a couple arguments that I'm testing to figure out what's wrong with a certain function. So I use this one a bit recently to insert, rather than typing this entire thing, then plugging in whatever I want to for the different parameters. I can instead hit $K. That's it, and this entire thing will be plugged in. So I'll show that to you. So let's say this is my text editor that I'm using to code right here. I hit $K. That's it. It just pastes in that whole thing and also puts the cursor exactly where I want to. So right where this add action, argument is here. That's where the cursor goes. Or let's say you were writing a plugin. Sorry, I got the wrong app here. Let's say you're writing a plugin and it's a new plugin and you want this text kind of at the top of it, right? It just says the plugin URI, version number. It's all just the boilerplate text you have to put on the top. So you'd want to paste that in, and you can see from the little mark here, that's where I want the cursor to show up after this has been pasted in. To insert all this stuff for new plugin, I have it set up to be comma plug. Or you can change it to whatever you want. Let's say contact PL. I'll go for something even shorter. We'll set it to that. So now in my text editor, if I hit comma PL, then plug in all that boilerplate and then put the cursor where I wanted it. All right. Something as simple as that shaves off a lot of time. For anything you find yourself typing repetitively, any text expansion app I'd highly recommend. Some text editors like Sublime Text, the one I use, have this built in. You can put together all kinds of snippets and save them and have it auto insert them. I kind of shied away from entering all this info into any text editor though, thinking that, well, what if I want to change in the future, right? I would have to, maybe all those snippets would be stuck in that app, and I'd have to, remake all of them, or maybe have to worry about exporting all that data and then importing it into whatever other editor I might switch to in the future. I thought a better solution would be to just find a nice third-party solution that just works with not only in your text editor but just anything. I use these snippets for typing in certain URLs or my email address, my address, my phone number into forms like that. I have all that stuff just auto-populate when I type a little command. All right, so highly recommended. This is kind of the cheapest one. This is Lifehacker. That popular blog did a article about a year ago, and they rounded up all their favorite text expansion apps for the Mac, and this was the winner. A-Text was. So highly recommend that. Only $5 for a great app. Alrighty, very last one I have before I turn it over is Sublime Text 2. It's the editor I use. Sublime Text 3 is great as well, but I think it's still in a beta at this point. But I was going to highlight just some of the packages that I use. This is kind of like anybody who's familiar with like extensions for Google Chrome or Firefox or some of those web browsers that allow you to kind of add functionality to your web browser. In a really similar way, this Sublime Text and other text editors like it have a way for you to add functionality to them. So Sublime calls those packages. So if I go to Browse Packages right here, you can see some of the ones I have installed. A few I was going to highlight though that I found really helpful are these. All right. First one, alignment. This one's really simple just shaves off a lot of time trying to align things properly. If you have, especially in an array, if you have a bunch of key value pairs and some of them are a little askew, off to the left or off to the right or whatever, this app has a few handy little shortcuts to get things aligned, immediately if you just commit those to memory. So it's highly recommended. Its bracket highlighter is as simple as you can see it working down here. So this function I have is defined here and ends right here. So just in the gutter, it just throws some of these brackets, in the gutter, so you can see exactly where it's beginning and ending. For this function, because it's so small, it doesn't really help too much. But once you get into larger, especially object-oriented programming, where functions and classes are just huge, they span more than what you can see on the page. This comes in really handy just to see in the gutter exactly what you're dealing with, what the kind of the scope is of each function. So something as simple as that I find quite handy. Doc blocker. This one is for entering doc blocks. Before a function call, if you want to define what that is in a doc block, instead of typing it out every time, they have a few quick shortcuts for auto completing doc blocks. Sounds pretty handy. Emmet, I won't cover, just a few, just various shortcuts. Find function definition. This one's pretty handy. It really simply just allows you to right-click on any PHP function, for instance, and click on, in the context menu, it'll just say find function definition, and it'll go to wherever in your project that function was defined. If you're wondering where that was defined and kind of what the parameters were, or trying to refresh yourself on what it does, this will just zip right to it pretty quickly. Gist is a really handy one as well. This is part of the Git version control system that Brian was alluding to a bit earlier. One of their services is called Gist, and this is if you just want to send some text, send a string of code to anybody else that you're kind of collaborating with, just for them to have a quick look at it. This has a really again, a quick keyboard shortcut. You can just type in and then whatever you have highlighted or whatever text file you're on, it'll just shoot that up to your GitHub account and create a gist of it, and then put the web address to that gist on your clipboard. Right. So it's as simple as if I highlighted something here and then hit that command, it would already be on my clipboard. So then you could paste that into Skype if you're talking over Skype or IRC or whatever your channels of communication are. Wherever you post that link, the moment they click on it, it'll go to your gist of exactly that code. So really quick for sharing things. I found that to be invaluable. Package control, I won't go too much into that. It just allows you to really quickly uninstall install, uninstall Sublime packages, some of these things that we're talking about right now. Makes that a little easier. Sublime linter just looks for errors, typographical errors you may have inserted in your code and not realized it. This will find them ahead of time, even before you have saved the file. Just constantly lints or monitors the page for that. Last one, Sublime Save On Build. I mentioned this during the third-party tools hangout on air we did, but I'll mention it briefly again here. Actually, I'll mention 3 things. This would be if you're using Sass, which I'm trying to get into, instead of writing straight CSS, if you're writing Sass files, kind of like this, right? That have nesting and have like this, right? That have the variables defined and all the values for your website. If you're kind of heading in this direction, getting into the Sass world, and you happen to use Sublime Text, I would highly recommend these 3 packages right here. One is just called Sass. It allows I'm just the editor. If you see down here in the corner, it recognizes this as a Sass file, and it's rendering the correct colors and stuff like that here. This is not the case natively with Sublime Text. You have to add that package to get it to recognize your Sass files. The next one is Sass Build. It's just allows you to take the pre-processed Sass files and then process those down into the final style.css, just your final resulting, the outputted CSS file. And the very last one is to make that even fancier. So the Sass Build, it'll build it on a certain key command. So you have to manually tell it you want to build the CSS file every time. To make that even slicker, though, you can add this Sublime OnSave build. What this does is every time you hit Command S to save your project, it'll automatically build the project and output the CSS file for you. So it's really seamless. It feels like you're going back to the days of writing straight CSS, where the moment you save the file, those changes go into effect. It kind of makes it that same way, where it saves it. It builds the file every time you save the document. So those 3 I've found, jumping into the Sass side of things, to make it really quick and convenient and stuff. I want to mention those as well. And I think that's all I have, so I'll turn it back over. Is Kyle, you up next?
Yeah. So
right. Take it away.
You guys are really on the ball today with some great demos and screen shares. I just was going to throw a lot of tips out there, tools that I used, things that we like to do. I'll start with just a few of the quicker ones. One tool, a simple plugin, WordPress plugin that we've used for a while. I don't know, maybe a lot of people know about this or have different processes, but when we're posting content, we find it useful to get other people involved and have people proofread content. So I use a plugin called WP Status Notifier. We'll have a link to the plugin in the notes, I'm sure. That just simply emails selected team members when a post is saved as pending and says, hey, you got to go review this post. So that makes it great for us content creators who are writing something, and we just save the post as pending, and it automatically notifies the team member that they've got to go and proofread your work before you go and publish. So that's a pretty handy plugin that I think I like a little bit. Another one we've talked about before, in fact, Jason already talked about this a little bit. A great plugin, one of the coolest plugins out there for a lot of reasons, Backup Buddy. And Jason talked about how he can use it to automate his production process for creating a new project. I think that we can't finish this episode without talking about Backup Buddy's core function, which is automating backups, which is a really important thing to do. Anybody who cares about their site at all should be employing a backup strategy, and Backup Buddy is one of the best tools out there for that. It's a premium plugin, but it's not super expensive, and it's definitely worth all the money spent on it. And what its core purpose is for automatically generating backups, usually on like a routine basis. You can generate it manually, or you can set up a schedule for it to back up either the whole site or just the database or certain directories. You can set those backups to be sent somewhere. You can specify how many backups you want to be kept. And all that stuff serves to just make it a completely invaluable tool, give you some peace of mind, keep your site safe, so that you can always roll back to different versions, so you have backups stored in different strategic locations. That's one of the most awesome things to automate is your backup process. Definitely backing up your site manually regularly would be unnecessarily difficult when you have great tools like Backup Buddy that just automate that for you. Another plugin that I really like. This comes down to managing content, and we find this particularly useful. Well, definitely on sites where there is a lot of content. Most often, we're doing this on sites where there's maybe a large product catalog. So on big e-commerce sites, we will we tend to, if the product catalog is of such a size, we generally opt to manage the product catalog from a spreadsheet, from like a CSV file or something, which is so easy and quick to manage and manipulate, add new values, modify existing records. It's super easy to work with a CSV file. And then we'll use a plugin called WP All Import, which is another premium plugin, but I think well worth it if you're in this kind of a situation. WP All Import is the best plugin that I've found, and I've tried quite a few, for importing from a data source like a CSV or an XML file. It's got a lot of really cool, awesome features. I can talk about WP All Import for a while. Some of its cool stuff, like the ability to run like functions within your import, or it's just the ability to save templates for your imports and things like that. But really, one of its coolest factors is related to our discussion today. WP All Import can be set to run on a schedule, and so this is really handy, where you can develop your content in a CSV file, place it in a directory on your server or somewhere on the web, tell WP All Import, here's where the data is, and I want you to re-import this data on a regular schedule, daily, or something like that. And so that way, we or our client is able to download and upload that CSV file or edit it online if we're using a Google spreadsheet or something like that, or Dropbox, whatever. They're able to work in their spreadsheet, or any of our subcontractors. We don't need to. Whoever's working on the data doesn't need access to WordPress. They don't even need an account on the site. They don't need anything. Just need to access the file and be able to replace it or edit it directly. And the site will, on a routine basis, synchronize with that, and this will update all existing records, add new ones if they exist in the spreadsheet, delete file posts if those get removed from the spreadsheet. You can configure all of those settings, but it's a really cool way to automate that, and definitely speeds up the management of large catalogs or sites with huge databases of huge numbers of posts. So definitely recommend that for automating processes like that. And so those are a few handy tools. Jason, do you have any others that you want to talk about at this time?
Yeah, I've got two more I wanted to cover. Just a screen share here. So this one is Appointments Plus from WPMU Dev, and this is really much more of a client's, much less of like the web development side, but what the client can automate. And this is simply scheduling appointments. And you see here it pops up all of his available times for this day. And so he's got different hours on different days. So with this guy, he does custom machinery, a buddy of mine. And so hopefully he won't be upset that I'm using his site on the air here. But he varies it up. So some days he'll take the afternoons. So he's working. He'll accept appointments from 4 to 7. Here it's on Tuesday. It's in the morning, and he varies this all up so that he doesn't have to worry about being interrupted when he's in his machining time for conversation appointments. You know, he can focus those days on the morning on setting up all his machining and running, and then in this afternoon, since he's got his appointments scheduled from mornings here, he can save the afternoons for his actual machining. And then, as you can see here, it comes up with this stuff. And it's giving the appointment time, the date, what the service is, service provider. You can customize all these fields. You just put in your email, your name, your email address, or whatever kind of contact information you need. And this can be set to automatically confirm, or he'll have to go in and manually confirm. We've got it set since it's only him to automatically confirm. And if he were to require payment ahead of time, let's say you're doing something where your consultation is actually charged. So he does these consultations and then charges by the project after the consultation or something. But if you were to need a deposit, maybe a 10% deposit or a $10 deposit, you can set all those custom functionalities here. I'm not going to go into a long detailed tutorial on this because WPMU has got some great videos on how to make this happen. But just a great tool for automating this process on the client end, on the business end. And my other tool here that I wanted to discuss is Yahoo Pipes. And I want to point this out. So here's a simple news section on my travel blog. It's constantly upgraded. I don't need to go in and do anything other than set it up originally. And anybody who's a follower of my site can come in and check if there's any recent news based on anything that I write about. I'm going to have to jump over to change my screen share real quick. So the way Yahoo Pipes works is I take all these different various news sources that tend to write on, since my travel blog is all on Latin America, I take various different news sources, put them all in here in the URL, funnel them in through a filter, and I can filter out so it has to contain one of these countries. It has to be relevant to one of these countries. And it has to be in the item description, not just randomly in the text. So somewhere in the description of basically the metadata within a website or within an article on the news has to be in one of these countries that I have visited. Other than Venezuela, I've never visited. I just really like keeping up on their news because it's always weird. But there's all sorts of functionalities you can do. I'm not going to get into details on this because it can become kind of lengthy as well, but the fetch feed, filter it out, set it into pipe input, and then you get a new feed URL from Yahoo Pipes. And I use a tool called syndication. And I simply drop that new feed URL right here in the news sources. I go in and create a separate a custom post type for this, but it's kind of outside this realm. And add this here, and we've got ourselves a new feed that shows up. I bring it up, I set it to bring it on that page using that custom post type, and now I've got my new information in here. Now if I click this continue reading button, it's going to take me to their website. So I'm not stealing their information and putting it. I'm just posting relevant stuff so that I don't have to go through, or any of my readers don't have to go through and search and go through searching for all that stuff. So I've got 6 of the most popular, largest websites, news sites, I guess, that talk about Latin information or stuff in Latin America. So I have that set up to automatically create those post types through Yahoo Pipes, filter them out just to not cover anything that I don't write about, and then be displayed as if they were a new post, but still linking directly to the original content. Comments, questions, feedback?
That's really cool, Jason. One thing I was kind of exploring, I haven't done this quite yet, but it also uses Yahoo Pipes, and that is I was going to automatically download the WordPress.tv videos. I was on that site, and I was noticing they support Miro, M-I-R-O, that app, which is just, it's a similar thing where you just have some kind of syndication, some feed of either videos or text or whatever that they're pushing out, and Miro just syncs those. It'll routinely check for any new ones and just download those videos, in this case, to your computer. So I was thinking about using Miro to have it automatically fetch like new videos on WordPress.tv and just throw those directly into my Dropbox. So then on my mobile device, it would already be there. It would already be in Dropbox for me to just watch and then delete, kind of as needed, instead of having to always go to the site every time and have them kind of with me on the go. I thought that'd be kind of a cool solution. But as of recently, they started having some foreign language presentations on there, right? Which is awesome. I'm in full support of that. But I just don't speak those languages, right? So I was thinking about if I have this feed and I'm getting everything on WordPress.tv, some of it might be not quite what my focus is, or some of it might be in another language altogether. But I read somebody posting, saying that you can take that feed and run it through Yahoo Pipes and do exactly what you just said, right? Filter out based on certain keywords or certain criteria, and then take that resulting feed and use that for what you actually download. So it might be kind of a cool solution for getting videos, and not remembering to go check for them all the time, if that's something somebody wanted to do. Yep.
I find it especially useful for those lulls in activity when I'm not writing much and I still need to have, the problem with having a one-person travel blog is you have to travel to continue writing. So if I don't have time to travel, or I have nowhere to travel, well, basically that's never the case. It's usually I'm too busy to travel at that point in time. And it keeps new content on there, keeps the site looking up to date at least and fresh, while not like stealing content. It's still relevant content to my reader base. So that's what I use it for. I also use it on my company website, and I pipe through our feeds from WP Roundtable and push them up to my company site, and just have, instead of a blog on my company website, I just have a sidebar where all those feeds show up. So those are just 2 examples of my own stuff where I use them, but I've used them on other places as well. And that's it for me.
Cool. Well, I actually have one other category-esque type thing. We're all web developers here. I'm going to share my screen here. And one of the things that is an issue is managing all of those WordPress installs if you're not using multi-site. So there's a few really good tools out there. One of them is Manage WP, which I have up here. Personally, I have never used it, but I have seen people using it. I don't use it because it's a little on the expensive side for what I'm trying to do. Yeah, it's only 80 cents a website a month, but that adds up for the small amount of sites that I currently have going live right now. And I also came across a free solution before this, so I had a hard time switching over to a paid solution that gave me the same thing that I had. What I was using up until today actually was Infinite WP. Infinite WP is a great tool. The base of it is free, and they're supported via add-ons. So there's add-ons for things like backups or installations or migrating the website. Even to go with last week with what we had is the page speed add-ons. They've got quite a few different add-ons that are, they're really good. I've bought a few of these. Right now they have a plan for $400 for all of their add-ons with unlimited updates for a year. It's a great site. It's hosted yourself, so you download the files, set your site up yourself, and then you attach all your WordPress sites to it. What it gives you is the ability to monitor all the websites, figure out themes that need to be updated, plugins, WordPress core that needs to be updated, and it allows you to update it from the Infinite WP dashboard. Today, I actually started utilizing a different solution, which I actually like so far. It's not so intense. Like Infinite WP has all these add-ons you can do. It doesn't have all those. It is just to monitor updates that are needed. So it tells me everything Infinite WP, and I assume Managed WP offers you is for core updates, theme updates, plugin updates, and that's WP Remote. It is completely free for unlimited websites. You can even from the site dashboard you can download your site files, your site XML, so you can have that offline as well. But the really nice thing and what drew me to it is their API. It is a full JSON RESTful API. You can see right here one of the samples to update your plugin is you just post to the site with the site ID, the plugin name, and then update. So the reason I like this is I like building my own tools that are laid out the way I like it and integrate with everything else I do. So having an API for something like this is key for what I'm doing and how I like to work. But for automation of updating your sites, updating plugins and things, that you really need to get something that manages these sites in one place if you don't have multi-site.
That's really sad. I didn't notice that the Managed WP had changed their policies, because when I first started using them, they gave you 10, I think it was up to 10 websites free indefinitely, and now it looks like you can have up to 5. Let me look at this again. Yeah, up to 5 websites for a 14-day trial.
Yeah. So and what I would need is it's $2.40 a website a month for the plan for Managed WP that I would need for everything that I would want to do.
That seems a little bit weird too, because it seems like the more websites you have, the more they're charging, and that didn't seem to used to. Oh no, I guess not. That's the various plans. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's I believe it's all, it's you pay per website with Managed WP, but the professional plan and the business plan, they give you more and more options.
Right. Yep.
One of the things with Managed WP is their business plan. It gives you white labeling, so your clients don't know you're using Managed WP to utilize management of their site. Now, Infinite WP, they have a plugin that you can add to both either brand the plugin that you have to install on the client's website, or even just hide it completely, which is a really nice plugin. Just hide that plugin altogether, or a nice add-on which hides that plugin altogether, so the client doesn't even know you're utilizing it. Yeah, the WP Remote, there's one feature that I wish it had, and that was running your Backup Buddy backups from here. However, if you have Backup Buddy set for automatic crons, I guess you don't really need it, but it'd be nice to be able to download those backups from here. But because of the API, I can integrate that with something else.
Actually, that's a perfect segue, Brian. Because I was going to mention that iThemes just has jumped into that space now with iThemes Sync.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you just described, right? You can manage plugins and themes, updating all your sites, and also run Backup Buddy backups
Right.
from there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I just saw that. I haven't had a chance to use it yet. I'm wanting to get my hands on it just to see how it is.
Yeah, the first 10 sites are free with that, and then from there are plans for like 25, 50, etc.
Right.
sites. Very cool.
Well, thanks, guys. I think that was at least nobody had to drink for lulls and activity tonight. That was we were really running up through it. Actually, I was almost thinking, maybe we're hitting way too many, but hey, it was quick, no gaps, and thanks for putting in a lot of great stuff.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, good job, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, have a good one.
You too.